If I were a gambler, I'd see Joshua as a 6-5 favorite, so I'd put him just in front. Klitschko knows how to win and how to use his body size. It will be a difficult fight. If he wins the world title again, oh my God, imagine that. If Klitschko wins, the boxing world will flip out. Those are the words of former two-time world heavyweight champion and the oldest man so far to win a version of the heavyweight title, the legendary Big George Foreman. He makes Anthony Joshua a slight favorite over the aging veteran Wladimir Klitschko. I find that interesting. Foreman is a guy who knows his boxing, certainly knows his heavyweight boxing. He knows what he's looking at. I saw several interviews with James Ali Bashir on Ingram Jones's channel, Bayloric Worldwide Television and Media, I believe he's calling that channel now. And several times James Ali Bashir said that if Anthony Joshua has endurance, if he has resilience, then he can see Joshua becoming the new George Foreman. He said this several times, James Ali Bashir. This is not a man who doesn't know boxing. This is somebody who is deep inside the Klitschko camp. And this was the first time he said it a long time before the Joshua Klitschko fight was even thought about. He was saying, you know what, Joshua can be the new George Foreman if he has the enough endurance, because being George Foreman, Foreman took a lot of punishment in his career, and he had to, because he was never the fastest guy. He was never the best guy technically. In fact, he was pretty awful technically. But he had a good chin, he had heart, he had endurance, and tremendous physical strength and tremendous punching power, as we all know, and a very good jab. So to me, I was kind of a little taken aback by James Ali Bashir saying the new George Foreman. I didn't really see that. I don't see Joshua as the same kind of fighter as Foreman. I think Joshua was a bit more of a boxer puncher. But then again, Joshua's not a guy to be getting on his back foot and bouncing around and moving around. I saw him do that a couple times in the amateurs, and he didn't look too clever doing it. He's more of a guy who likes to either be in the center ring or coming forward, which is kind of like George Foreman, to be fair. So, yeah, George Foreman himself, his views on this fight do interest me. I wonder if he sees some of himself in Anthony Joshua. Not only James Ali Bashir seeing it. He's made Joshua the slight favorite. I guess he's going with the guy who's more active, the guy who is in his prime. He obviously knows that being an old guy, you can compete with younger guys, you can beat them. But it does become more difficult. And with Wladimir Klitschko coming off such a long layoff, there are question marks there. I've said in many videos, and just to reiterate here again, I believe that layoffs hurt older fighters far more than they do younger fighters. I believe that the body deteriorates, including the reflexes, far more quickly and dramatically when you're in your 40s than they do when you're in your 20s, for example. I mean, just look at Bernard Hopkins. I know he's a lot older than Wladimir Klitschko, but there was a huge difference between the Hopkins who fought Kovalev and the Hopkins who fought his last fight against the Irish-American guy whose name is currently escaping me. Joe Smith Jr., sorry. Yeah, a huge difference. It was night and day. Against Kovalev, he looked way more youthful. And those fights were next to each other. He had the Kovalev fight, a long layoff, then he fought Joe Smith Jr. The deterioration was huge between those two fights. Not to take anything away from Joe Smith Jr., but that's just what I saw from the opening bell. A huge deterioration in the way Hopkins was moving and looking, and lack of sharpness and all that kind of stuff. Will we see something similar with Wladimir Klitschko against Anthony Joshua? Klitschko has been looking very good in training. I've seen all kinds of training footage. He looks very sharp on the pads, bouncing around in the ring as usual. There's been some sparring footage that's come out. He's sparring people like Gerald Washington and several other people. So he's looking good in training, but a lot of times guys can look good in training. But when they get in the ring, they're just missing that little bit of reflexes. And at the top level in boxing, half a second can make the difference between winning and losing. It really is that finite at the top level. Half a second can make the difference between blocking a punch or pulling your head out of the way of a punch and actually getting hit with that punch. And when it's 250-pound men throwing their weight around in little 10-ounce gloves, that little half a second that you lose in reflexes can be absolutely devastating. Has Wladimir Klitschko lost that half a second? Or even a second in his reflexes? Will that be the difference here in this fight? When you look at the skill sets of both fighters, you have to be more impressed overall with Wladimir Klitschko. His skill set is far more proven at a far higher level than Anthony Joshua's. Klitschko, unlike Joshua, has shown the ability to box on the back foot, stick and move, so on and so forth. Klitschko, unlike Joshua, has been 12 rounds on numerous occasions against all types of different styles. Klitschko has got one of the best jabs the heavyweight division has ever seen. Also one of the best right hands the heavyweight division has ever seen. Let that be known. Joshua is still green, still wet behind the ears. He has youth. He has good reflexes for a man of his size. He's a beast of an athlete. He has shown certainly better inside fighting ability than Wladimir Klitschko has. But other than that, you would have to say Klitschko looks the more skilled and more talented fighter for the most part. His left hook. Joshua's got a good left hook, but Klitschko's looks better. Joshua's got a decent jab, Klitschko's looks better. Joshua's got a good right hand, Klitschko's looks better. So on and so forth. All I really would give Joshua is maybe the reflexes, the inside work, so on and so forth. I've personally been alarmed at how quickly Anthony Joshua has been moved in his professional career. He's been moved far more quickly than I personally would have moved him had I been in charge of his management or promotion. Particularly when they put him in with Charles Martin. After that, it became a situation where he was under pressure to fight the very, very highest level opponents. He's had his little honeymoon period against the likes of Eric Molina and Dominic Brazil. That honeymoon period is now over. He now has to step in with the real deal. And we're going to find out if he can cope. He has passed every test so far in his professional career with flying colors, impressively so. You can only beat what's in front of you, and other than the Dillian Whyte fight, Joshua hasn't really put a foot wrong in a professional boxing ring. So he's passed every test with flying colors. And he's handled the pressure so far in his career, but this is the next level again. So we're really going to find out if Anthony Joshua is ready. And it's also a test of Eddie Hearn's management and promotional skills in terms of guiding a fighter. It will say a lot about Eddie Hearn if Joshua goes in there and gets beaten out of sight, gets beaten in one-sided fashion. That will say a lot about Eddie Hearn. Because if you would have allowed Joshua to have more developing fights, get a few 12-rounders under his belt. He's currently sparring Mariusz Wach for the Klitschko fight, in preparation for the Klitschko fight. He could have fought somebody like Mariusz Wach in a professional fight. Mariusz Wach, as we all know, incredibly tough. Very, very strong chin. If I was in charge of Joshua's career, these are the kind of fights I would have taken before even thinking about challenging for a heavyweight title. So anyway, let me not long this video out too much. It's already longer than my usual videos. I hope most of you have stayed with me. I hope I've given you some food for thought. Let me know what you feel about George Foreman's comments here. Do you find them as interesting as I do? Also, let me know what you think about the James Ali Bashir comments. Remember, these comments were made by James Ali Bashir on Bayloric's channel at least a year ago, I think, at first. So a long time ago. Let me know what you think about everything I've talked about in the video. All right? It's happening. I'm out.